That's as original as I can get. It is really, really windy here, and my name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and this is the Worldox virtual user group meeting, and we don't have power, but that's all right because we're testing out our new Generac at the homestead, which is also the office. And so we think that if the power kicks back on, that the Generac will just click us right back in and nobody will know any different. But if you all of a sudden stop hearing us, that would be because we were having telephone difficulties. Stick with us. We'll be right back. We don't anticipate that being a problem. It's been out for a while. The wind is still blowing really hard. We don't think the power is coming back on. So this is the, what month is this, Mary Jo? This is the April 2014 Worldox Virtual User Group meeting, and today we are talking about checking out and checking back in documents. Mary Jo is going to cover that topic in just a minute. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into how the indexer works. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. It's one of those things that you would never really have to worry about. But we're going to give you a little insight just so you know what it is, how it functions, what it does, what happens when it's not functioning. I'll be talking about that. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. This is your GoToMeeting control panel, GoToWebinar control panel, which you, if you are looking at this right now, if you are seeing this other than on my screen, that means you have not minimized it. And minimizing it is simply a matter of pushing this button that looks like arrows pointing to the right. Once you do that, this will slide out of the way, and all you'll see is these buttons, and this will change into a button that looks like arrows pointing to the left, and clicking that again would cause it to slide back into view. Why would you want it to slide back into view? Well, if you're shy and you have a question, you can type it here, and remember to hit the send button, and Leanne, our lovely and humble moderator, will notice that you have a question, wait for the opportune moment, interrupt Mary Jo or myself, and ask your question on your behalf. Now, if you have more questions as we are answering, don't hesitate to continue typing them here and to continue hitting the send button so that Leanne can continue to ask the more questions that are coming up as we are answering your question. Now, if you're not shy, this button here that looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upwards in front of it means raise your hand. Same thing, Leanne, our lovely yet humble moderator, will recognize that you have a question, but instead of interrupting us and asking your question, she will interrupt us and unmute you. And she will unmute you until you are done asking your question. So if this happens and you do have follow-up questions, just keep talking to us. Now, I have to find out if Mary Jo can talk. Mary Jo's having a little bit of a choking fit over here. Are you all right, Mary Jo? Okay. We are going to turn this over then to Mary Jo, who is going to talk to us about checking out and checking in documents. Mary Jo?
Okay. I think it must be those flying cows I just saw going by in this wind. I don't know. Anyway, so checking out and checking in documents. A lot of times you're going to want to take documents with you either home or to court or somewhere. You want to take these documents somewhere outside of Worldox so that you can work on them and then come back to the office and bring them back. And in that time, we don't want other people to be able to make modifications to them. So Worldox has our checkout and check-in feature. So what you would do, I'm just in a test client here. I believe I'm still in Purdue Law. So I'm going to go down and find a document. And Paul, I don't know if you've given me control.
I haven't. You can get, can't get good help these days. Try wiggling your mouse.
There we go. Okay, so I have a test to delete document right here. And I'm just going to highlight that document. And up here on my toolbar, I have the checkout. And so I have a couple of different options here. I have my local mirror folder that I can check down to, or we've created one in here called My Documents, or you can have this, so usually when you come in you have two. You have the local mirror and you have other target folder. A lot of times you might want to take this document on your flash drive, or you might want to check it down to your desktop or into a folder that you've made that you can grab and take with you. So I'm guessing that probably most of the time you're going to go to this other target folder, create one, and then that folder can be there for you in the future. Like we've got My Documents up here now. This can be a folder you create on your desktop. It can be a folder that you create in My Documents. This can be wherever you want, but we want to map or browse out to that location when we're checking out our documents. And then you can then take those documents if you would like and put it on a flash drive. And then when you get back, you can dump those documents back into that folder that you created when you go to check it in. So it's kind of, it makes it easy for you to get those in and out. So I'm going to say the other target folder. I'm going to click on Add. And then I can give it a name. So this could be, MJ Docs or whatever I want this to be. It could be the location. And then I can browse out to a location that I want to actually check these documents out to. Now, in this case, you could go to My Documents. You could create a folder that you're going to put those documents in. You can create it on your desktop, like I said, and any of your drives, wherever you want to have these documents so that you can access them later on. Could be your C drive, could be whatever. Especially if you bring your laptop to work and you work on your laptop, you can put it on your C drive, and you can take that laptop home. That's available for you to work on. You put it back in that C drive, come back, and you can check it in from there. So you would pick a location, and then once you do that, I'm just going to, Paul, I don't know what we picked before. I'm just going to pick My Documents there. So you can see the path here, and so it's got it here into Document folder. And then you also can save it to your checkouts or to public checkouts. And I believe if you have rights for that, I don't know that as an admin, I don't think you can check out to the public checkouts if you don't have rights to do that. But you can save it to your checkouts. Say OK, and then that document gets checked out to that new location, because I can tell it that I want to go there, and say OK. And now I get a message. It tells me that that document has been checked out. And if I look at Worldox, I can see that that document has been checked out by Paul Perdue on today's date. So if anybody else goes to come into this document while I have it checked out, they will only be able to see it in a read-only format. They will not be able to make any modifications in it until this document is checked back in. So once I've done all of my edits, I come back to the office, I'm ready to check that document back in, or maybe I didn't get to it and I didn't make any edits to it, and I bring it back and I just want to check that document back in. I can either navigate out to this folder, and I can click on this little check-in box right here in the file name, or up here at the top we've got a check-in, and I can go into the check-in. In this case, it's finding that I have that one document checked out here, and it's asking if I want to discard the offline copy and revert back to the original, because I haven't made any changes to this document. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to discard that copy, just revert it back to the original because I have not made any changes, and say OK. Once I've done that, it tells me that that document has been checked in, and then I can see that that message is no longer on there that tells me that document has been checked out. And now that's accessible to anybody else in the firm to make changes to it. You can check out more than one. You can highlight and group them, and you can check out several different documents at once, and it will tell you that you've got the 3 that are highlighted. You can even go across files if you had a different list open and check out. And again, you've got your choices. Now I've got 2 folders that I have made, and you would have different ones if you would like to do that as well. So any questions?
No questions, Mary Jo.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Paul.
Well, that's pretty simple, but yet powerful. And I know a lot of firms have trouble when they aren't using something like Worldox, because people will check something, they'll take something home, they'll work on it, they'll bring it back, and what they're actually doing is writing over the top of changes somebody else made while they were there. And this prevents that from happening and lets everybody know. It's almost as if the document were open in the office, and you got that message that somebody's already got this document open, but of course you can take it outside the office and work on it and get that back.
One other quick thing, Paul, just make sure that if you do check out documents that you don't forget to check them back in, because they're going to be unchangeable and unmodifiable in the system until they are checked back in.
That's correct. Even if you didn't change it, Mary Jo, you didn't change that document,
right,
but you did check it back in. And that's why it asked if you wanted to discard it. It knew you hadn't made any changes. It could tell by the date. And so therefore, it's still important to check that back in, even if you don't do that. That's a good point. Now, I'm going to talk about something that is kind of a mystery to people. It's called the indexer. Now, The indexer is a couple things. It's a machine. People think I've got this indexer machine that runs. It's a computer that sits somewhere. It's usually a computer that's not being used by anybody else. It may or may not be in the server room. It may be in an office somewhere. It doesn't have to be in the server room. But it is the machine in the Worldox world that does all the work. It's the one that makes sure that all these documents are findable or searchable. It's where the text gets indexed within the document itself. It's where the profiles get indexed. Now, one thing that's important to remember, and I'm going to pull up our indexer. This is what it looks like. It's a program that runs on a computer. So when I said it's more than, it's many different things. It's a computer, the indexer computer. You can think of the computer that it runs on as being the indexer. But it's also this program that's running. This is the indexer running on the computer that we call the indexer. Now, it's important to understand that if the indexer is down, you can still search for documents. Well, didn't I just say that it's how it indexes everything so it can be searched for? Yes. But it does that on the drive that all the documents live on. So if I add a document right now, in fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go into Word and I'm going to create a document. And I'm going to save it into Worldox. And you're going to see this happening, because I'm going to take the indexer and put it over here. And I'm going to take Word, once it loads, make it a little bit smaller so that we can still see the indexer behind it. And I'm going to type a document that simply says, hello. And I'm going to save it. And I'm going to put it in, we're going to put it in that old favorite Purdue Law Offices. I'm going to call it test delete just so later on somebody will know that it doesn't really belong there. I'll put it in good old Purdue Law Offices, matter 00, doc type, I'm going to put sample. Now watch over here, and what you're going to see is that the next time that it scans in 5 seconds, it's going to find that I saved that document. It's going to make note of the fact that I saved it, and it's going to temporarily index it so that later on, 2 seconds later, if I go to find this document, I'll find it. Now, what do I mean when I say find this document? Well, first off, let's get rid of this. If I go into Worldox right here, and I go to favorite files, it is searching for my favorite files. So that's an example of finding it. Okay, there it is. If the indexer weren't running, it wouldn't find that. If I go to find, and I search for Purdue Law Offices just in the client files, so we'll go here and we'll type Purdue. It will find it. Okay? Now, what would happen if we turned off the indexer? Well, let's find out. I'm going to take this copy of Worldox, I'm going to move it over here, and I'm not going to actually close the indexer, but I'm going to close the server so that it's not running. Okay, it's now actually in a non-running mode. And I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to search for Purdue Law Offices again. And we'll go ahead and modify, hold on one second, it's off my screen here. We'll just modify our last active search and we'll search for Purdue Law. And it still finds that document, so what do I mean it won't find new things? Well, it's the new things. This is already in the index. So when I go to look for it, it's already there. The indexer's not running, but it doesn't need the indexer running to find this. It just needs the indexer running to add new things. So let's go back into Word real quick. And we're going to create another document that says goodbye, and we're going to save it under Purdue Law Offices. I can still save documents. I can still get Worldox to come up. Everything's still running. The indexer just isn't. I'm going to call this test delete goodbye. And I will again put this in Purdue Law Offices. And I'm going to, again, save it as a sample document. And you'll notice that the indexer is not running back here. Remember before I showed you how it counted down and then in the next pass it added it? It's not able to do that. So now when I go over here and tell it I want to search for Purdue Law Offices again, hoping that I might find that new document, I'm not going to. That's what I mean when I say when the indexer isn't running, it won't find new documents that were added since it was shut down. Now, this is where we make a very important distinction. This button here is called Direct Access. It will take me to Purdue Law Offices. And look at this. There's that file. How did it find it? Search with the binoculars uses the indexes that the indexer builds. Direct Access simply takes me to the folder for Purdue Law Offices and shows me all the documents. They don't have to be in the index. And of course, Favorite Files is using a search sort of methodology, so it's not going to find that new file either. Now let's start the indexer back up. So I'm going to start the server, and you'll see in a second that it's going to make its next pass. And first it's got to do a couple things. Now it's going to count down. And when it makes this next pass, it's going to find any documents that were added or edited or changed in some way. And here's my save as. And now when I go back over here and search for Purdue Law Offices, I will find that second document. Okay? Now, so what did we learn? We learned that the indexer should be running at all times, that it is on a separate machine, that it's a piece of software that looks at everything that's happening and makes sure that it gets those new documents and those changed documents in and indexed properly so that you'll be able to find them later. But we also learned that if the indexer shuts down, Find or Favorite Files may not be able to find those new documents, but Direct Access can. Okay? So if you ever have a situation where you saved a document earlier this morning and now you can't find it, that probably means the indexer isn't running and wasn't running since before you saved that document. But don't despair. You can at least get to the document by using Direct Access and find it, but you should go tell somebody that you don't think the indexer is running because it needs to be restarted. Maybe the power went out like we experienced here and the computer didn't come back on right. Or maybe something happened to the indexer and the software just stopped running. Whatever the case, if you're an admin, you should go to that indexer and find out what's going on. If you're not, you should simply tell somebody who knows what to do, and they will go look at the indexer and get it back up and running. Just so you know, the indexer also does some neat things. It rebuilds these indexes at night so that when you search for words within documents, that's how those are being found, by the rebuild of those indexes. So not only does it maintain these indexes on a moment-by-moment basis, it also rebuilds the text indexes. Now, there are two types of indexes. There's the profile indexes, and what do I mean by profile? This right here is the profile. The information that you fill in on this screen is called the profile. This information, including these comments here, is updated the minute you save something or the minute you change those profile fields. The full text of the document itself is not indexed for the first time until that night or until the next text rebuild runs. And a lot of firms will run these on a weekly basis. So you may be thinking, well, that's not good. We need to find these documents. Well, it's unlikely that you're looking for something based on full text immediately after saving it. Usually it's, I'm trying to find that easement that we did involving giraffes and orangutans 4 years ago. So you'll go in and you'll search for giraffes and orangutans, and up will pop the documents that have the words giraffes and orangutans in them. So there are these two types of indexes, and at night the indexer, since nobody's there, it says, I'm gonna have a nerd party, and it brings down the indexes and rebuilds them so that, Mary Jo, that's not that funny. It really isn't. Rebuilds them so that they're nice and fresh the next day. Okay. Any questions on the indexer, Leanne?
There are no questions on the index.
Oh, we are just having such a good time and explaining things so well here that people are either sleeping or they're fully understanding.
Or they might have blown away, I don't know.
They might have blown away, yes. It's starting to calm down a little bit out there. Is the generator still running, Leanne?
Yes, it is.
We're very excited about this generator. Next time, we are going to talk about externally accessing your documents. In other words, how do you get to your documents that are in Worldox when you're not in the office? There are quite a few ways. One might be the enterprise server. One might be switching to Worldox Cloud. One might be using the web mobile offering. There are quite a few different ways to get to your documents externally. We'll explain them all, give you an idea of how they work. And we're also going to talk a little bit about something called WD Admin. It's basically the Worldox administration program. Whether you're an administrator that wants to learn more about what's in there, or you're just a user that's curious about the capabilities that Worldox might have under the hood, even though you don't have access to WD Admin, it should be interesting in a nerdy sort of way. Okay, I'm going to have to minimize this, and I want to show you that if you go out to our website, you will find my red tie and white shirt, but if you scroll down a little, you will see our 3 virtual user group meetings that we have, including the Worldox virtual user group meeting, which you are attending this very moment. We also have our Coffee Pot webinars. Mary Jo has a series of short videos called the eBytes video series, and we even have a studio format show called the Paul and Mary Jo Show. But you can register for the next Worldox virtual user group meeting usually a week or 2 before. You can't do it now because we still have the registration link up for the one that you're attending right now. And you can also scroll down and see recorded versions of every one that we ever recorded, which means quite a bit. We go quite a bit back in our recorded versions. So feel free, if you ever miss one, or you want to brush up on something or re-listen to something, feel free to come here and you'll find all that good content. That's it for today. Everybody have a good rest of the afternoon, rest of the week, rest of the month, and we will see you next month when we talk about external data access or document access and the administration program. Goodbye, everybody.